Hi there, this is Brenda and it's Wag Off Wednesday, and today I want to talk about a combination of situations, but all kind of the same situation in one. I get a lot of calls with people saying that their dog is having serious problems adjusting to the home. They might be biting, they might be decompensating from stress, excessive salivation, standing in corners barking, just really not functional in the home, busting out of their crates. Unable to be left alone for any amount of time. They're snapping their teeth off on the bars, or they're urinating all over themselves and all over the cage. And the part that becomes difficult is the call starts with them describing the situation, and then they give me their list of don'ts. Well, I don't want my dog to be on medication, and I don't want my dog, to have to board anywhere or come and live outside the home for a little bit. I don't want my dog to have to be put in a crate, let's say, if that's one of the things that they're not doing. And I don't want to have a dog walker come in and walk my dog. And I don't want to do a group class because I did one once and I don't like that. And I don't want to rehome my dog. And of course, I don't want to euthanize my dog. And it always strikes me as funny because I certainly didn't wake up this morning and say, oh, gee, I hope there's a dog that's a good candidate for euthanasia. It's not on my list of things to do. I don't like to do it. I don't want to do it. And I don't do it that often. But just the fact that they're saying that to start with, you're like, huh? I don't want my dog on medicine. So the dog can't even get through an hour without experiencing extreme stress, without totally shaking in their boots, or without peeing all over themselves, or whatever it is, and the owner doesn't want to discuss medication even with a veterinarian, which is where the discussion should happen. And it always strikes me as funny because why not? And a lot of times it comes down to the fact that they don't want to have to acknowledge the fact that they have a dog on medication, and they don't like those drugs, or they don't like a crate, or they don't like being away from their dog. But the condition that their dog is suffering from is calling for them to be away from their dog, or them to be on medication, or them to be in a crate for their own safety, or them to be placed in a different home. You know, the side that we look at as humans is how it affects us. But the side that we don't look at a lot is, well, if my dog is urinating or defecating all over themselves, or self-harming themselves in the home, what's it like for them? You know, what is it like for them in my home? Are they comfortable? Is this the right match? Is there a better, more viable option for them? And it doesn't mean that the dog has to go to a shelter, and it doesn't mean that the dog has to go to a rescue. Sometimes there are solutions even within the family that would be a better fit. If your dog is repeatedly biting your child or yourself or your spouse or anyone that comes in the home, and you are someone that likes to throw 5 parties a night and have multiple people in and out, and you don't want to do any work with your dog, you're kind of at a stalemate there. And if you have a sister or a cousin that really is a much more reclusive type person, not as gregarious, enjoys just kind of hanging out at home, and has a much less active social life, sometimes that can be a solution. Again, let me repeat, I'm not saying go throw every dog in a shelter and give up on every dog. Do the work. But if you're not going to use the other tools that are available to you, and you're going to tie the hands of your trainer or a behavior consultant before they even get started, it really makes it hard for us. And the assumption that we want to medicate every dog, or that we want to euthanize every dog, or that we want to take every dog out of the house, it is just not true. We make a living working with people that want to do the work, that want to put in the time. We don't gain anything by offering medication and then not really resolving what's underlying the problem. The medication and the behavior modification plan go hand in hand. Their efficacy together is phenomenal. And when you break apart medication or behavior modification, depending on what the situation calls for as prescribed by a doctor, you really limit what you can get done. But this is just a reminder to all the owners, and I am not talking about any owner specifically. I know about 10 to 20 that probably want to get on the phone and call me and say, oh, I hope I didn't make you feel that way, or I didn't really mean to say that. We're not talking about medicating you. We're talking about medicating your dog. The only reason we would be talking about medicating your dog is because we've sat down with a veterinarian, we've gone over the case history, and we're saying, hey, this dog is having a hard time. We need to create some space for learning. We need to chemically calm them down so they can hear us and experience some relief from the stress cycle that they're in. using a crate. We don't want to confine your dog, but we certainly don't want them chewing on an electric cord and electrocuting themselves when you're not home. You leaving your dog alone for a while. Sometimes you may actually be the trigger, and if that's the case, some time apart just to work on skills could be really, really helpful. But again, we did not wake up to do anything to you or your dog that isn't going to be productive. So that's today's Wag Off Wednesday. Just don't tie our hands and let's have a discussion. You wouldn't go into the doctors and say, I broke my arm, but no cast, no ibuprofen, and no physical therapy. You would say, what are my options? And then discuss them with an open mind. Anyways, happy wags.